All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our MLB video here today. For Monday, April 26th, I figured out what the date was today. And if you're new here, I just want to let you know that my name is Brock Page. And I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And I'm still feeling pretty good here today, on a Monday afternoon because we're coming fresh off a 4-1 day yesterday on my Patreon website. That's going to put us at 2-0 in our last two board member tier package picks on my Patreon page. We're also 3-0 in our last three extra daily pick tier package plays on that site as well. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. Now, we currently have over 1,405 members who are signed up and active on that page. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, the link for that site is in the description section below. Once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. With that, guys, we're going to go ahead and dive into our first game here on the video. What are we going to do here? Okay, Brock, get it out. Twins, Indians, 6:10 Eastern first pitch. Minnesota's minus 130, total 7.5. Jose Barrios for the Twins, Zach Plesac for Cleveland. Now, Plesac is due for a good one here today. He struggled quite a bit in the early going this season, although he's only walked two batters in nearly 19 innings of work. Plesac's also recorded 14 total strikeouts, and despite their struggles this season, the Indians are still playing .500 baseball at Progressive Field. And they cashed in on the run line in 60% of those home games. The Indians are in the top 5 in hits allowed at home, and they're giving up just 3.5 runs per contest at Progressive Field. They're taking on a struggling Minnesota team who's currently on a 2-game losing streak, while also dropping 8 out of their last 10. Now, the Twins are currently just 7-13 straight up overall for the season, and they're winning just 40% of their road games. The Twins are also in the bottom 10 in runs allowed on the road. And when it comes to the total in this one, Minnesota's 60% to the over when they travel. Cleveland saw 5 out of their last 6 get over the total of 7.5 runs themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Indians plus $1.10 and the over 7.5. Next game, Yankees, Orioles, 7:05 Eastern start time. The New York Yankees are minus $1.60. Numbers 9 flat. Davy Garcia for New York, Matt Harvey for Baltimore. Now, Harvey goes into today's start with a 5.12 ERA and a 1.40 whip. The Orioles have lost 3 out of their last 4 contests. Unfortunately, they currently have a 2-8 record at Camden Yards this year. They've been terrible at home. Their pitching staff is in the bottom 3 in runs allowed at home. And they're also in the bottom 3 in striking batters out at home as well. They're taking on a Yankee team who's won 3 out of their last 4 themselves. And they've managed to play .500 baseball on the road despite their struggles. Aaron Judge has hit 4 homers and has been walked 13 times. Meanwhile, Giancarlo Stanton, he's hit 5 homers and knocked in 14 himself. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, just 1 out of New York's last 8 ball games got over the total of 9 runs. As a matter of fact, New York is currently 13-8 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Orioles saw 7 out of their last 10 meetings with the Yankees stay under the number as well. Baltimore's officially 12-9 to the under for the entire season themselves. I'm going to lean toward the New York Yankees minus $1.60 and the under 9 runs. Next ball game. A's, Rays, 7:10 p.m. East. The Oakland Athletics are minus $1.15 on the road. Total's 8.5. Sean Manaea for the A's, Rich Hill for Tampa. Now, Hill comes into the start here today with an 8.82 ERA and a 1.53 whip. The Rays have lost 3 out of their last 4 ball games, and they find themselves winning just 40% of their contests at the Trop. The Rays are in the bottom 10 in home scoring, and they lead the majors in home strikeouts at the plate. The Rays hitters are fanning nearly 11 times a game at Tropicana Field. Now, Tampa's taking on an Oakland squad who's won 13 out of their last 14 ball games, and they have a .750 win percentage on the road. Oakland's in the top 10 in road scoring, top 10 in road hits. Matt Olson's hit 6 home runs and knocked in 17 for Oakland. He currently has 44 total bases, and he's got an OPS of 1.030. Jed Lowry's also batting .293 for the Athletics, 3 homers and 17 ribbies for the infielder. Oakland's currently 1 game ahead of Seattle for first place in the AL West. Now, total-wise, 6 out of Oakland's last 9 ball games stayed under the total of 8.5 runs. 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Tampa also stayed under the number if you're into historical trends. Meanwhile, Tampa saw their last 3 straight stay under the 8.5 themselves. 5 out of their last 7 also stayed under that number. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's minus $1.15 and the under 8.5. Next contest, still in that 7 o'clock slate here. I'm talking about the Cubs versus the Braves, 7:10 Eastern first pitch. The Atlanta Braves are minus 200, numbers 8.5 flat. Charlie Morton for the Braves, Zach Davies for the Cubs. Now, Davies is just 1-2 on the season with an embarrassing 8.80 ERA. The righties had significant control issues, walking 11 batters in just over 15 innings of work. Davies comes into today's start with a terrible 2.09 whip. Now, Chicago is currently on a 2-game losing streak, and they lost 4 of 6 on the road. The Cubbies have really struggled to get across the plate as the away team. They're in the bottom 3 in the league in road scoring, last in road walks at the plate. Chicago scoring just 2.1 runs per contest when they bat first. They're taking on a Braves club who won 5 out of their last 9, and they rank in the top 10 in home scoring. Ronald Acuna's hit 7 homers along with 14 total extra base hits and 16 ribbies. Acuna's currently batting .371 with an OPS of 1.237. Freddie Freeman's also hit 5 home runs along with 16 bases on balls. And speaking of walks, the Braves hitters are in the top 5 in the league in free passes at the plate. Now, total-wise, 90% of Atlanta's home games got over the posted total, 13-8 to the over for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Atlanta Braves minus 1.5 and the over 8.5 runs. Next contest, Marlins Brewers, 7:40 Eastern Standard Time. The Milwaukee Brewers are minus $1.75. Total 6.5 juice to the under. Corbin Burns for the Brewers, Trevor Rogers for Miami. And despite some command issues here, Trevor Rogers is 2-1 thus far in the season with a 1.64 ERA and a 1.00 whip. Now, Rogers has also struck out 31 batters in just 22 innings of work. Miami's one of the best road covering teams in the game with regard to the run line. They've cashed in on the run line in 8 out of their last 10 road games. The Marlins pitching staff is also in the top 3 in the majors in hits allowed per contest. They're taking on a Milwaukee team who is still going to work without Lorenzo Cain and Christian Yelich. And despite their recent success this past week, the Brewers still find themselves with a losing home record. And even worse than that, the Brewers are cashing in on the run line in only 33% of their home games. Milwaukee currently leads the majors in strikeouts at the plate per contest. They're fanning over 10.8 times per game. When it comes to the scoring in this one, the Brewers have gone 5-4 to the over at Miller Park. Miami 60% to the over in their road games themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Marlins plus 1.5 and the over 6.5 runs. Next contest, Phillies Cardinals, 7:45 Eastern start time. The St. Louis Cardinals are minus $1.10 at home. Totals 8 flat. Adam Wainwright for the Cards, Zach Wheeler for the Fightins. Now, Wheeler's just 1-2 on the season. He comes into this contest with a 1.31 whip. Now, Philadelphia's dropped their last 2 straight series, and they currently find themselves just 2-7 straight up in their 9 road games. Now, the Phillies have been giving up a ton of runs away from home. Right now, they're actually in the bottom 3 in runs allowed on the road. And in addition to that, they rank dead last in road hits allowed as well. Now, they're taking on a Cardinals club who's on a 3-game winning streak, And they also currently have a winning record at Busch Stadium. Now, good news for Cardinals backers here. Yadier Molina, he's expected to be in the lineup here today. He's got 5 home runs, and he actually leads the team in OPS with a 1.044. Meanwhile, Paul DeJong has hit 5 home runs on the year, along with double-digit RBI. Now, the Cardinals are in the top 10 in the majors in scoring on average per contest. When it comes to the total in this one, St. Louis is 5-4 to the over at home, 12-9 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Philadelphia is 6-3 to the over when they travel, 13-8 to the over for the entire year as well. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals minus $1.10 in the over 8 runs. Next ball game, Angels Rangers, 8:05 p.m. East. The LA Angels are minus $1.50, totals 8.5. Shohei Ohtani for the Angels, Jordan Lyles for Texas. Now Lyles, he's been getting hit around a little bit here. He comes into today's start with a 4.64 ERA. The Rangers are currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they got the W in just 33% of their home games. Now Texas is currently in last place in the AL West, and they're dead last in home scoring. The Rangers are averaging just 2.1 runs per contest at Globe Life Field, and they're averaging less than 5.8 hits a game in that same category. Now they're taking on an Angels club who's led by Mike Trout, who's batting .393 with an OPS of 1.325. Trout's hit 6 home runs and batted in a dozen. He's also been walked 14 times. Meanwhile, Jared Walsh is batting .299 with 4 homers and 14 batted in. Los Angeles is in the top 10 in scoring, and Shohei Ohtani comes into today's start with a 1.04 ERA. Now, total-wise, LA saw 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Texas stay under the line. Meanwhile, the Rangers are 7-2 to the under at Globe Life Field. I'm going to lean toward the Los Angeles Angels minus 150 in the under 8.5. Next contest, Mariners, Astros, 8:10 Eastern Standard Time. The Houston Astros are minus 175, numbers 9. Jose Urquidy for the Stros, Justice Sheffield for Seattle. Now, Sheffield struck out 16 batters in just over 16 innings of work. The Mariners have been playing some really good baseball on the road. They're 7-4 straight up as the away team, 9-2 against the run line in those contests. The Mariners also rank in the top 10 in the league in hits allowed per game. They're taking on a Houston club who lost 4 out of their last 7. And to be honest, they really haven't played their best baseball at home. The Astros are just 4-6 straight up at Minute Maid Park, and they rank in the bottom 5 in hits allowed at home. Now, Jose Urquidy, he's 0-2 on the season with a 5.14 ERA and a 1.38 whip. And when it comes to the number in this one, Houston 60% to the over at Minute Maid Park, 13-8 to the over for the whole year. Meanwhile, the Mariners are 7-4 to the over as the away team, 13-9 to the over for the whole year as well. I'm going to lean toward the Seattle Mariners plus 1.5 in the over 9 runs. Next ball game, Rockies, Giants, 9:45 Eastern start time. The San Francisco Giants are minus 170, total 7.5. Anthony DeSclafani for the Giants, Austin Gomer for Colorado. Now, Gomer's walked a staggering 15 batters already in just over 21 innings pitched. The lefties just 1-2 on the season, and the Rockies are still looking to get their first road win of the year. Colorado's currently 0-6 straight up as the away team thus far. Colorado's also dead last in road scoring, dead last in road walks allowed. Now, the Rockies are walking over 5.3 batters a game away from home, and they find themselves scoring just 1.8 runs a game in that same category. They're taking on a Giants club who's 8-2 straight up at Oracle Park. They've been very good at home, and they currently lead the majors in runs allowed per game. Anthony DeSclafani, he's 1-0 with a 2.14 ERA and 21 strikeouts. San Francisco gives up just 2.4 runs per contest on their home field. When it comes to the total on this one, 80% of San Francisco's home games stayed under the line. There were also 15-7 to the under for the entire year. Meanwhile, the Rockies are 5-1 to the under in their 6 road games themselves. 13-8 to the under for the entire season as well. I'm going to lean toward the San Francisco Giants minus 170 and the under 7.5. And with that, guys, now it's time for our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Reds versus the Dodgers, 10:10 Eastern first pitch. The LA Dodgers are minus $1.90, number 7 juice to the over. Julio Urias for the Dodgers, Tyler Mahle for Cincinnati. And as good as Mahle's looked in the early going, he's walked nearly double-digit batters already through just over 20 innings of work. Cincinnati's currently in the middle of a brutal 7-game losing streak, and they're currently in the bottom 3 in the league in runs allowed per contest. Now, Jonathan India is questionable for today's action after getting plunked in the head over the weekend. The Reds are just 2-7 straight up as the away team. They cashed in on the run line in only 22% of those very contests. They're taking on a Dodger team who leads the majors in wins and currently has a .700 win percentage on their home field. Los Angeles leads the majors in offensive walks. They're also in the top 10 in scoring on average per contest. Justin Turner's hit 5 home runs and knocked in 19 already. The infielder is currently batting .346 and has an OPS of 1.046. Meanwhile, Chris Taylor's hit 4 bombs at the plate and batted in a dozen himself. And in addition to their offensive proficiency here, lefty Julio Urias is on the bump here today. He's 3-0 for Los Angeles thus far in the season, 2.81 ERA through under 26 innings of work. Urias has struck out 26 batters and comes into today's start with a .94 whip. Now, total-wise, just 3 out of LA's last 10 games stayed under the total of 7 runs. Meanwhile, the Reds are currently 15-6 to the over for the entire year. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 1.5 and the over 7 runs. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like Cleveland plus $1.10, over 7.5. New York Yankees minus 160, under 9 runs. Oakland minus 115, under 8.5. Atlanta minus 1.5, over 8.5 runs. Miami plus 1.5, over 6.5. St. Louis minus $1.10, over 8 runs. LA Angels minus $1.50, under 8.5. Seattle plus 1.5, over 9 runs. San Francisco Giants minus 170, under 7.5. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 2-0 in our last 2 board member tier package picks on my Patreon website. We're also 3-0 in our last 3 extra daily pick tier package plays on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 1.5 in the over 7 runs. And with that, guys, that is going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.